One of the most compelling things about the NBA and professional sports in general is seeing who ends up becoming the next big thing. Sometimes it's obvious, but for these guys, they came out of nowhere and became superstars. Despite showing some promise his rookie year with some fill-in appearances, Pascal was mostly forgotten by the Toronto staff, who placed him in the D-League to better hone his skills. As it turned out, the D-League had lacked the competitiveness a player of his caliber required, and as such he went on to win the D-League's championship in 2017. Finally recognizing his potential, the Raptors quickly made moves to place him back on the team's roster as a valued off-the-bench contributor. Starting his sophomore year in the league, Pascal began providing much-needed offense to the Raptors and scored a career high of 20 points against Golden State during the 2017-18 season. And while his overall performance was only marginally better than his rookie year, it was his playtime on the court that gave Pascal the chance to have his defensive presence put on full display. For this, it would be during his second year that Pascal was discovered to be a grossly underused asset for his defensive ability alone. That wasn't to mention his improvement in scoring we come to witness the following season. His third season was his largest breakout, averaging now 17 points a game with 7 rebounds a game. Coming at no surprise, it would be the 2018-19 season that he was placed as the team's starting power forward. His game was improved by practically every metric. His three-point percentage had gone up 14 points to a respectable 36% and began showing greater confidence in his jump shot. He had additionally shown great promise in his ability to step up his game in the playoffs. During that season's playoff run, Pascal recorded 30 points along with 11 rebounds in a Game 3 matchup against the Magic. Now bringing us to this season, Pascal has put on a standout performance, averaging 24 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, and a steal to match. Pascal was named the league's most improved player just prior to the league's hiatus. Having already overcome his greatest obstacles in life as a kid as he battled constant homelessness, by the time Jimmy Butler had come into the league, he brought with him an obvious ability to conquer the odds. Selected by the Chicago Bulls at the bottom of the first round of the 2011 draft, Butler dealt with some issues early on with his shot selection and jump shot. On top of those concerns was also the fact Butler had joined the league during the 2011-12 lockout, which shortened the season, making it difficult for any rookie during that year's class to make a name for themselves, let alone a bottom-pick draft. Starting out with limited minutes, Butler's sophomore season seemed to be a repeat of his rookie season until receiving an up in minutes and averages during the second half. It would also be the year that Butler appeared in his first playoff games, where he appeared in all 12 playoff games the Bulls appeared in. While he did just average a modest 8 points a game that season, it would be in large part of his periodic breakout performances during games that ultimately justified his role on the team. An example of this took place during the game against the Toronto Raptors, where Butler scored a then career high of 28 points. Just 2 days later, and Butler was at it again when he scored 22 points and grabbed 14 rebounds against the New York Knicks. His career began to only take off from there. 2 seasons later, and Butler had now fully established himself as the Bulls' starting shooting guard. It would also be during the same season that he made his team's starting lineup and that he made the 2015 All-Star roster as a reserve. The moment marked a milestone for Butler, both from the perspective of those watching his game on the outside and to himself. With an All-Star selection under his belt, Butler had finally become confident in his ability to remain in the NBA for years to come. It would also be during his first All-Star selection that he was also named the league's most improved player of 2015. Despite missing out on All-Star selections throughout his subsequent years and even being placed on some tough rosters, Butler has since led a remarkably consistent career. His most recent season with the Miami Heat has seen him averaging 20 points per game, 6 assists per game, 7 rebounds per game, and nearly 2 steals to match. While most know him today to be one of the league's most talented forwards, this hasn't always been the case for Paul George. Coming into the league as a top 10 pick of the 2010 draft, George was picked up by the Indiana Pacers. Like many of the league's most improved, there were certainly signs of George's talents in his periodic breakout games his rookie year, although they were few and far between. However, his defensive abilities became blatantly obvious during the team's run in the playoffs. During that run, George was one of 2 rookies that year to have made the starting lineup in the playoffs. Despite the placement, the Pacers still went on to lose in 5 games to the Bulls, finishing with season averages of 7 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, and a single assist. By the time the 2011 lockout season had come during his sophomore year of play, George's expectations to grow had largely diminished. Defeating the odds, George had his most impressive game yet against the Mavericks, where he racked in 30 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and a block. It should also be mentioned that he had made good on 7 3-point shots that game as well. His performance merited his selection to be on the team's starting lineup, where he fulfilled that role fairly well. Coming into his junior season in 2012, George broke the Pacer record for most three-pointers in a single game, where he made 9. George had surpassed Reggie Miller's record, who took a career to reach. He had done it in 3 seasons. Getting his first All-Star selection during that season, it had also been the season George was recognized to be the league's most improved player in 2013. Ironically, an outspoken Yahoo Sports contributor had actually predicted that George, during the time of the draft, would have been the greatest player to come out in 5 years' time. Having been drafted after John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, there is an argument to make that George, by today's standards, was the greatest to come out. His greatest statistical season compared to his rookie season makes him appear to be an entirely different player. Just last season, when George had been a part of the Thunder, he finished with averages of 28 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game, and led the league in steals with an impressive 2.2 steals per game. No one could have blamed you if you didn't know much of Kawhi Leonard prior to his playoff performance against the Heat in 2014. Even for as highly praised he was for his defensive ability coming into his 2011 draft night, there were no predictions that Kawhi was to become the next big thing. And for this, he was drafted as the 15th pick to be picked up by the Pacers, who quickly dealt him to the Spurs. There could have been no better team for a young Kawhi to join up with. Under the observation of Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker, Kawhi had plenty of veteran talent to help him get a head start in the league. However, it was also because of their presence that Kawhi failed to make a name for himself earlier. Showing some glimmers of what could be, Kawhi was voted 4th in the Rookie of the Year award. It also helped that during his second year, Kawhi was selected to play in the USA men's basketball select team, who trained with that year's 2012 Olympic team, which had the likes of Kobe, LeBron, Durant, and CP3 on board. Kawhi likely hadn't realized it yet, but he was essentially being groomed for his eventual success. Not many first or second year players can say they've trained up with the league's best, but Kawhi. Coincidentally, a season after this encounter during the 2013-14 season, Kawhi had some of his best performances yet. Besting his career high of 26 points, Kawhi scored 29 points in the Game 3 finals matchup against the Heat. It would be for his offensive and defensive contributions to the club that he was named the NBA Finals MVP, being the youngest to get the award since Magic Johnson before him, and he hadn't even been an All-Star yet, having finished his championship season with the Spurs with averages of 16 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, and 2 steals a game. It was from this point forward, Kawhi was placed on the map. To quickly get us up to pace, Kawhi a year later won the Defensive Player of the Year award in 2015. A year after that, he was selected to be on his first All-Star roster, improving his game statistically for every season since. Kawhi has recently floated on his most recent accomplishments of being named the Finals MVP again in 2019, along with leading the Raptors to their first ever championship win that same year. How he was never awarded the Most Improved Player of the Year during any of these 3 accomplishments is beyond us, but it's clear Kawhi has come more than a ways since his days as a rook, averaging 8 points a game. Coming into the league after playing professional ball in his home country of Greece, Giannis was picked up by the Bucks as more of an afterthought than he was ever respected for being an impactful franchise pick, and for the most part, much of those low expectations rang true. Giannis' first year in the league saw him averaging a skimpy 7 points a game, along with 4 rebounds a game. And while he wasn't getting much play time to begin with, it just goes to show that even with the average of 24 minutes he was getting per game his rookie year, not much was being shown for it. Realizing he needed to adapt to an ever-evolving NBA league that prefaces a concentration on athleticism, Giannis took to his trainers to begin taking on some weight. The process was gradual, and so was his improvement. However, by his 4th year in the league during the 2016-17 season, he had become a completely unrecognizable player. Not only was Giannis performing at all-star levels, he had additionally gained a whopping 51 pounds on top of his original 190-pound rookie frame. His 4th season would be his greatest improvement for the time, but fast-forwarding now into his 7th season, and the comparisons are stunning. Starting with 7 points per game his rookie season, Giannis was averaging 30 points per game, 14 rebounds per game, along with 6 assists per game prior to the NBA hiatus. For his improvement, Giannis has been named the league's Most Improved Player of the Year in 2017, and even went on to win the league's MVP award in 2019. If you've enjoyed this video, then we're sure you'll enjoy the next one. Click on right now and enjoy.